Guys, welcome again in this IIEC Rise community. And again, guys, in the last class, I think if you have gone through the last class, even though every class is compulsory to attend to complete this program, right? But in the last class, we have started the project, and plus last class also show you right that if you have the knowledge in multiple things, then only you can able to build the project, right? Then able that then only you can able to create something new for yourself and for your country, right? So even though we have just started with the two things like Python or the Linux operating system, but this will give you a sense, that will give you a feel to also motivate you that and also to aware you that having the knowledge in multiple things is so critical, right? So in the last class we have started with the very basics idea about the project, but slowly as you know more and more in Linux and more in Python, you will be create one of the such great project. Maybe you can implement those projects in your company where you are working, or where you will be work on those part, right? So and normally, you know what, the feedback normally I got, right? Because when students like you, when you present this kind of project in the companies, and when you work, when you gonna work for a company, and so these kind of the projects they worked on, right, they always uh, give you extra extra benefits, extra opportunities in their projects, right? I've seen hundreds and thousands of example of my student I've seen, right? They always prioritize in their company whenever they get the job, and then I'm getting the job also, and at the time of getting the actual project in the companies also, right? Every time they will always get the first priority. That's as one record I always set, and you guys also have seen you guys also will see those things, right? So before, guys, I'll start to some more thing whatever we have discussed in the last class. So I would like to directly jump to the hands-on, and let's build some more new things in our project, right? But before I do and start, I have one very important announcement for you, and this announcement, guys, is just I think everybody know across the world, right? I'm talking about COVID-19. I'm talking about coronavirus disease, right? So my suggestion, my recommendation for everybody, take this pandemic, this issue, this as a biggest disaster on the earth, right? So take it very seriously, and I'm highly recommend, right? Follow the norms what government is saying, and don't wait for when the new policy come up and the new norms come up, when the new announcement come up, will that time we'll see, right? Right now, isolate yourself, isolate your family, isolate your loved one, right? So this is a highly recommend I am asking. And other than I say recommended, because if somebody say recommended, always everybody take it very light. So I'm not asking you to, I'm not recommending you, I'm saying you do it right now. Okay, right now, don't go out, right? Don't go out, ask all your family member, right? It's very critical. From last couple of days I am studying uh, my own, because I'm pure technical guy. I normally don't focus on these kind of areas, but even though I'm researching a lot in all the form, the issue that is going to come maybe in the next week. Okay, so I'm not giving a warning, as you are my student, so I'm not giving the advice also, no recommendation. I'm just giving you uh direct instruction. That's all that you have to do. Okay, that you have to do. So do it right now. And all the loved ones, so just directly call them, right? If I say in Hindi, सीधे फोन करो, फोन उठाओ और बोलो बस घर से बाहर नहीं निकलना है. That's all. Okay, जो भी रिसोर्सेज घर पे अवेलेबल है, उसी को यूटिलाइज करो और यूज करो. एंड यूज ऑल द फर्दर थिंग्स जो भी फॉर द गवर्नमेंट्स क्या मेडिकल के नॉर्म्स उसको फॉलो करो, इज वेरी क्रिटिकल, राइट? We have to understand this. I think आप लोग सब लोग कर चुके होंगे, लेकिन फिर भी सबको करना है. Okay, so let's come to our main topic. But yeah, we are not wasting the time, right? Every day we do the training, you learn more. So after this disease will gone in some time, some days, and when you come out again to the market, you say your days doesn't wasted, right? You learn a lot of things and you are ready for the future world, right? So that is the one great thing. Sorry, we are doing. So let's continue with the next topic. It is not the next topic actually. We are continuing with our project, right? So we are continuing with our project. So what we have done yesterday and the last actually day before yesterday, we have started a project. And the project idea is pretty straightforward. Again, I don't want to again revise the thing, right? But in the high level, right? Mostly we use Linux operating system in the real world, in the real servers, right? And to make the life of the Linux administrator, Linux technical guys easy and the simple, right? We are creating this project. Okay, the simpler thing would be anybody can do it very easily, right? Anybody can think in more again simple way to the complex things also, right? So we are creating the project or the product, right, for these guys who would like to work on Linux servers and Linux things, right? So our project that will be create in the Python language, right? So whatever we do and whatever we are going to do in this Linux world, right, it would be automatically be managed by Python without having any knowledge, right? But understand one thing, right? The guy who create this project, they should have everything, right? It is not like this. If you don't have the knowledge, you can create the project. It is not like this, right? If you want right? For example, your name is, for example, Rahul, right? For example, right? So if you Rahul want to create a project, right, then Rahul should know each every bit about Linux and each every bit about the Python. Then only he can create the project, right? But he's creating the project for somebody, for some guy, for example, maybe for Eric. Okay, and Eric may be working in some company, right? And now Eric, without having any knowledge in Python and without having any knowledge in Linux operating system, they can manage the complete server very simply, very easily by one single click, right? So it means the guy who create a project and guy who create tool or the softwares, they should have the detail or the internal or the right knowledge in their learning or in their mind, right? That is the actual fact. So let's start. So a very basic level we have started. So I recommend, because we might going to create multiple files. So we have created one folder called my project, or I think for project folder, right? I hold for a second, please. I'm freezing the screen for a second. Okay, so I'll come back again. So yeah, so this is a folder we have created and this is a file we have created, and the program that I have created in the last class was this one. So I'm just running this program, and what this program says is say welcome, and they give you some options what you want to do. So technical idea is simple. Without knowing the date command, without knowing how to configure the server, if somebody press 3 and automatically 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 this server will be created, right? So till here we have created, but we haven't done anything fancy yet. Just we just printed the message. So today what we are going to do, I'm going to create this program. Inside this program some logic, right? My logic would be, if somebody press 1 then do this, if somebody press 2 to do this, and if you have any requirement something like this in any programming language, here the role of conditions come in play. Okay, So typically in any of the programming language, if we have this kind of requirement, right, then we always use if or else, right? So maybe guys, you are new in the programming language, or maybe you are new in Python. So I would like to give 5 minutes first to explain you what is the use of conditions and how to use if or else. Then I'll show you how to use if else here to doing this task. Okay, so today's one of the smaller topic of Python language is conditions. Okay, so for example, let me explain in this way. For example, if you have a requirement at a very basic level for those guys who are very new in programming language, for example, you are looking for a job, and for the company where you are applying for the job, their HR of their company have in their mind, if they say in their mind, if anybody who is coming over here, if the experience is if more than 2 years, if this is the case, then what will we do, we will give the job. Okay, otherwise if anybody who experience is less than 2 years, right, less than 2 years, in this case, that's called else. In this case, right, we won't give the job, won't give the job. So if somebody has, put this thing in their mind, these are known as conditions. Okay, so these are the first one condition. One of the company employees, like for example HR, human resources department guy, has set in their mind. Now you, for example, your name is Harry, and Harry come for a job, and these HR ask Harry, can you please tell me what is your total experience? So Harry say, hey, my experience is 1 year. Okay, so as soon as Harry give the input 1 year, 1 year, the HR use their mind, and their mind say that the experience is less than 2 year, and because it's less than 2 years, we won't give the job because they are not fulfilling our requirement. They are not fulfilling our conditions. But otherwise, if for example one other guy Eric come up, and Eric, they asked to Eric, can you tell me your experience? Eric said, hey, my experience is 3 years. Okay, so in this case again HR use their mind, and the condition that is set in their mind is this one, and because the condition is this one. Okay, and say according to Eric the expense is 3 year, and 3 is greater than 2, because 3 is greater than 2, so the condition that I'm looking for is valid, is been tested, is true, then I will give the job to this guy. So this is a guy's basic minimum condition. So whenever anything in your mind as a human being come in a mind, that if I do this, otherwise I will do this, if this kind of thing come in your mind, in the computer world, in the programming world, it is known as conditions, and normally we denote it is with if or else. Okay, and this is one thing, and whatever the thing come in your mind that you used for test, right, is this one. And this thing that you use for test, okay, and this is known as actually condition. So this is the condition of my company, and if the company, this condition become true, okay, I will do whatever we wanted. If this condition falls, then we won't do give the offer, we won't give the job. And that is a reason, guys, right, always condition give you give you either true or either false. So in the condition world, normally the output is always true or false. Okay, and that is a reason the variable in the programming language, whatever data you print or you use, sometimes we store in a variable. So in a variable where we store this data, these variable having their own data type, and this data type is known as boolean. So if any variable that has a data type, right, boolean, it means their value either will true or the false, right? Let me explain you how to write this code. Like, so for example, if x is value is 5 and y is equals to 10, okay, and if I ask does y is greater than x, because this greater than is a symbol that we use for checking the condition. If it is true, then it show you the true, and if if you ask does y x is greater than y, it is not true, so they solve false, right? And but if you try to store this value in some variable, for example z, and if you try to find the data type of the z or the z, what you will see, one minute, what you will see, it is a boolean. So whenever any greater than or the less than, or maybe if you try to want to find does x is equals to 5, yes, true. Does x is equals to 4, no, false, right? So if any of this kind of thing come up, either double equal to these are symbol normally we use in checking the condition, or technically it is known as in testing the conditions. So if you want to test the condition, right, so either would be, you know what, you are greater than, you are less than, you are greater than equals to, less than equals to, not equals to, or maybe equals to. So double equal to, a very small thing. If you are at x equal to 5, it means the value of 5 I am assigning in x variable and they store in the memory. But if I add x double equals to 5, it means I'm just comparing the value of current x, whatever the x would be, to the 5. Just I'm comparing the condition. It's like a equals to or not, equality condition I'm checking, right? So again guys, this lecture right now is just 5 minutes on for those guys who are sorry, who are new in any programming language, right? So just this very thing. So anytime you have a requirement for testing something, we always use conditions to test. Okay, this is one thing. But if you again go to if or else, so in the if we always use a condition. And this is the way we always talk. If as a human being, if we talk, we always say if if the salary of this company is this one, I will go for this job. If the mobile phone range is less than this one, I will buy it. So this is the way we always talk, right? So and this is the way we always write the program. So technically in the if, we always use a condition, or in the other way, in the if, we always use a condition that give you true or false. Or in another way you can say, right, let me write the code in this way. I write the code, for example, if the experience of that guy is greater than or equals to 2, in this case, right, we will give the job. Else, right, we won't give the job. So technically in the front of if, we always write a condition, or we always write a condition that always give either the value true or the false, means boolean. And one more thing guys, if the output of this particular line is also known as expression. So output of this expression, all right, if this output expression give you true, then the if will take you to this line and print the output, give the job. But output of this expression is false, this one, then if will send you to else and say, right, I won't run this code, I will show you the output of this code, what are the code you write over here. Okay, and one more small thing, all the code that you write inside if, all the code that you write inside if, you can write multiple code like print or maybe multiple things, those code are known as a block of code, or the suite of code. Okay, so if has their own block of code, else has their own block of code. So my point is simple, right? If this condition give you a true, then block of code of if will run. And if this condition give you a false, okay, give you false, then if send to the else, and block of code of else will run for you. So this is a very basic thing, or the closures of any programming language, right? So, and if you ever work on any programming language, you are very comfortable with these things. But let me I'm just trying to give you the high level meaning of if or else, right? So one thing, so that's what we could require, right? So technically, you know what I'm doing here, just let me open your document. I'll put the things there. So this is the rise. One minute, guys. So I created one separate doc because all the things that is respective to our project I'm keeping here. So all the code that is related to our project would be in the same single document, so it will be helpful for you. Okay, so if you now if you come to our main code, right? So in the project, guys, what we want, our requirement is something like this. Our requirement is, right, if somebody press 1, then run the date. If somebody press 2, then check the date. So if we have to write a condition like if or else, if this is 1, run the date, else run the cal, something like this we have to write. Right now it is not working because we haven't write any conditions in our program. There's one thing. Okay, but before I explain you how to write a if or else code in this Python, so I would like to explain you one more small thing. So in any programming language, right, whenever you have to write multiple lines of code, okay, normally in any of the programming language we normally start with curly braces and with curly braces. So, for example, maybe in the if also we have to write multiple curly lines of code. In the else also we have to write multiple lines of code. So these lines of code or this box is known as suite of code or the block of code. And not only for if or else, right? Even though if you go for for loop, you go to while loop, you go for classes, you go for functions, a lot of things we gotta learn in the future, right? So everywhere we have to write lots of lines of code, right? And we have to write a complete block of code technically. So in normally in any programming language, okay, the syntax of how we write the code for or while or if or else is something like this. So you know what, in the if we start with if, then we write this parenthesis, then we write our whatever we want to write here like conditions, then we close it, then start with curly braces, line, write multiple lines of code, then curly braces closed. Okay, then we start with else, for example, then same thing will happen for this, right? So this is a way we write a code in C, in Java, or maybe in some like PHP in other languages, right? But in Python, the the syntax of writing any block of code is little bit different. Okay, so in the Python, right, if you would like to write a code, right, if you don't have to use first of all your parentheses. Instead of parentheses, you tell if start here, this is a condition, and this end here, so you use colon here. Second, you don't have to use curly braces. Okay, you don't have to use curly. You have to write your code directly. Okay, let me give one very basic example. And guys, this is very important, especially for those guys who are very new in Python, right? So this is a very simple basic syntax you should know. Okay, so if you talk about any programming language, we write a code something like this. For example, x is greater than or greater than equals to, for example, 2. This is the way we write a code in any other language. And then we write else, then we write the code. Okay, so but in the Python, you know what, yeah, one more thing, Guido Van Rossum, the he is the creator of the Python language, what he said, right? Because you know what, if you are a good programmer, okay, and you will be for sure in some days, right? um, because a lot of guys are have a fear of learning the programming. I've seen in my life, you guys might be have, right? But believe me, after the completion of this program, you start loving the programming language, right? Because the way we are going to create a project, you will be so indulged in creating the project. Automatically you start loving the programming language. If you have a fear, normally 80% guys have a fear in learning any programming language, but I'm giving you guarantee you start loving it. Okay, this is a different point. But normally, you know what, if you go for any job or any company, right, and maybe your job would be for software engineering, right, where you write the use some programming language. So they take a lot of days to train you what is the best practices of writing the code. Is there, they might not train you in the programming language, but they train you the best practices is you to write the comments, you to write, for example, if you have one if inside one more if, It's called nested. Don't write in this way, right? If you might have one more if inside one more if, right? So this is not right practice. You know what happened normal as a programmer? Okay, when I start writing the code, lots of logic in my mind. We don't focus upon the best practices, look and feel. We just start writing the code, and you know what will happen, right? It will happen to you also if you don't do this. In a day, the next day, if I run my if I read my own code also, right? I won't understand my code, even that is written by me. I don't understand why I use this app. I don't understand where this if start, where this if and. So a lot of thing is there. So that is the reason, guys, we highly recommended whatever you write many something main logic, always put the comment. Or in the Python, if you want to put the comment, you can use this has for line comment. Okay, this is one small practice. But second thing is, if you have any block of code inside any other block of code, you have to always start with something, some spaces like this. If this if is inside this if, you have to write in this way. You write in this way. Okay, so so this is a better practice to do the things, right? So anybody by looking at this code, they can say, hey, and I know this if start here and here. If something is not working, I have to look on only this part. Otherwise it would be very messy, because you know what, when you start writing your project, it would be maybe 100 of pages, right? You will see automatically it'll go maybe 100 pages when you start writing your project, creating your projects, right? So so point is, guys, this is a good practices this company always train, right? So that your code will be readable. So you guys, or maybe other project member who will join your project in the future, they also understand how you write the code. But normally, because we are the developer, we where's the logic come in mind, we normally don't focus on the look and feel and the way we arrange the code. We start writing the code, and code becomes so messy, and the future is harder to understand, right? That is the one of the reason why Guido Van Rossum, the guy who create the Python, said, right, that in your programming language, if if any block of code, if is there, and if you have any block of code, this space is compulsory. If you don't give this space, right, I will give the error. So if any block of code that is go inside if, right, you have to give this space, and this space is technically known as indentation. Indentation. So indentation in the Python is compulsory. In other language, if you don't do, it will work, right? But it's not good practice. But in the Python, if you don't give the indentation, right, it will fail. Code won't work. So any keyword that has a block of code, so inside that block of code, giving the indentation is compulsory. This is one thing. Okay, let me write one more small code. For example, if we talk about any other language, right, if this is if, okay, and this is my condition, like expression is greater than equals to less than equals to maybe 2, and then we use the curly braces, then we use else, then we use curly braces. For let me write one small example here. For let's say I write one line of code, print here hi, and let me write one more line, print here hello, and in the else let me write one line called bye. Okay, so this is a typical syntax of any programming language. But in the Python, right, Python say, don't use more and more curly braces. Sometimes look very complex code. Remove the code, right? Because we are trying to create a Python language in such a way the way human speak. Okay, and human normally doesn't speak in this way. If curly braces, if I do this thing, curly braces, we don't use this way. We always use, if the experience is getting to, so this is the way we speak. So these guys also trying to create a language that is something speak like human languages, right? This is one small thing. Okay, so they don't use so much curly braces, but yeah, for if it should know where this condition stop, so we have to use colon here. As again don't use so much curly braces, we don't require. But if you don't use the curly braces, how if come to know that is if is completed here and this else is a different else? It is not part of if. It is not part of block of code of if. That is one of the reason we have to indent this statement. So these are known as statement. You to indent the statement. Okay. Now this is part of else. So we don't use any curly braces here. You have to indent this block. And because else close here, so you use again colon here. So technically, this is the syntax of your Python. But what is expense is a one kind of variable. So somebody asks you to ask this variable value. For example, expense is for example 1 year. So does expense is less than 2? Yes. So this is when this statement is true. Yes. Because this is true, this block will run. So this is guys, this is the syntax in the Python language. Logically wise, it is exactly same whatever you do in any other programming language, but in the Python, the syntax of any keyword that has a block of code, from classes to functions and whatever you're gonna learn in the future, for loop, while loop, syntax is same. We don't use any curly braces here, or we don't use any curly braces or the parentheses here. We always write the block of code indent. And one more small thing, whatever indent you give here, it should be same space, right? For example, if you give indent 2 space, that your choice, you have to give 2 space. If you give 1 space extra or 1 space less, it gives the error. All the indents should be equal. It should be equal. That your choice how much you want to give. The normal market standard is 4 spaces, is a normal market standard, but you can use any number of spaces. At least 1 space you to give. But what I normally like, I always like tab. It give more clarity and faster. Otherwise tab 8 times will take a lot of time, right? Space bar. So so that the the way I do the intent, I use a tab to give the space. Okay, so let me write this code for testing. So what I am doing, I'll go to my command line first to show you this output. For example, this is x is equals to 2. If I say if if x is greater than equals to 1, okay, print hi. But if you see here guys, this print is a part of this if, and because we haven't indented, it give you error. And error say is it is error, error say is indentation error. So giving the indentation in the block is compulsory. Okay, but if you again write, and now if you print, your choice how much indent you want to give. So write one more print, one more indent. But if I write one more print, and this time if I give this statement extra space, they are on the same line, again through the error. They again say it is indentation error. It means whatever space you feel, you have to give the same space in the complete block of code. And you know what? After you start writing a project, you know what? They have lots of line, and automatic your code become so clean. Because you have to write every line in single, straight. It like very straight. So it's very clean code will look like. But otherwise, in any programming language, if you done programming Java, C, any other languages, right? You sometimes you see your code, it look very messy. But here in Python is but obvious because it's hard coded, right? They set the constraint that you have to give same space, otherwise they won't allow, because this limit is there or constraint is there. So they force you to give the proper space. So automatically your code looks very clean and very human readable. Okay, this is one thing. So let me write the code properly. For example, this is a value of x, right? If I write if is greater than this one, then print, say okay, if, write all the statement what you like inside the if, and then else, then print by, for example. And according to this example, x equals to 2. All right, this is one value I get from some other guys as input, for example. And because it does x is greater than 1, yes, true. And because if get the true, they always run their block of code. So the output would be all the block of code that we get in the if. So technically, okay, whatever you write in the front of if, right, they always give true or false. It means you can also directly give true or false also. The true is one boolean, and if I give the true manually to the if, right, if always want true, if will always happy with the true, and when the if get the true, they run their block of code, and if get the false, they never run their block of code, they always run else code. Sorry guys. So it is something like this. So whatever you write in the front of if, either you can give boolean directly, or you can use this kind of syntax to give the boolean, maybe this one or this one, whatever condition you can use. That's your choice, right? So come to our main project code. Right now it will make sense. So those guys who are new in in programming language, I given the basic first, and those are who are new in Python, I give the syntax of the Python. Now everybody in the same line. Now we can do our requirements, what the requirement would be, right? So requirement is in our code what we want. Sorry guys. So requirement is if somebody press 1, we store the value of 1 in ch variable. Now what we do, I write if the ch value is equals to 1, if this condition match, then I will print date. Else if somebody writes something else, for example 97, 98, some number, then let's say option doesn't support, option not supported, whatever message you want to print, option not supported. So let me test this code, then we'll add some more new thing here, right? So this is one small condition I have write in my code. Let me run this code, let's see how it's working. So this is a menu I've given to my user, and if some by chance some users write for example 54 and because 54 is not there in my menu, they say option doesn't support. That's right. But my question for everybody is, if I press 1, what would be the output? What do you think? Sorry. If you press 1, what output will come? Okay, so you know what it will come, it give again option not supported, right? But what we looking for, according the code, it look like, right, if this condition is matched, then they should print date, but they haven't printed. Okay, why? Again we should know one more small thing, right? The thing is, whenever you get input from your keyboard using input function, right, let's say 5 comma, but if you notice here, whatever input from the input function, if you input anything, they convert those thing into a string, they convert those thing into a string. Okay, it means if you find the data type, it look like number, but if you write the data type, it is string. It means if you compare x equals to 5, it give you false, even though both the number are same, but a string is equals to integer, it no, right, they give the false. So technically if you get any input from the input function, right, and if you try to compare with the number, either you have to convert your number into a string, or you can convert your string into the number. For this we have function called int. Int means integer type. Okay, so it's called something like, x is what, my variable, and the data in the x is my 5 is in the string data type is there. So I'm typecasting, I'm converting my data type into integer. So this is one way we can do. Okay, so you should know what kind of input you are having and how to whom you are comparing here. So that's what we have done. No, we haven't done actually. So what I'm doing, again I'll go to my code and I just converting this ch into the integer. Okay, and let's save this, and now let's see how it work. So if I write 1 and check the condition, now here they are printing the date properly, working great, right? No issues. Now one more small thing, I'm not looking for to just print the date as a string. I am looking for to give the date output, right? So you guys know how to do this, right? So instead I use print, I can use the system function. You guys know system function, and system function is a part of OS module. Okay, So it means if somebody press 1, they will print the date. They will run the date command, okay, from system function, and it's a part of OS module, and OS module we already imported initially. So if I press save, and now it would look something like this, what we are looking for. So if somebody press 1, it, without knowing the date command, anybody can see the date in my system. But here, and the constraint in this code is, if somebody press 2, it said option doesn't support it, because we have write only one single conditions, that is only for 1. So what you have to do, just copy paste these lines, okay, one more time, multiple times, multiple times, multiple times. And now what you have to replace, if somebody press 2, so that and the menu of 2, what you write, just check your calendar. So I write here calendar, okay. Similarly, like 3, you write change the command, 4 change the command, 5 change the command, something like this. So multiple condition you can create. And guys, if you want to create a multiple condition, right, so in the programming language we can't write multiple if, okay. So what it will be something like this. If write first if, then you write the condition, for example condition 1. If the condition match, so what are the code we have, it will run. If this condition not match, then they go to next condition. If the condition match, they will run their code. If the condition doesn't match, they go to third condition. If condition match, that's good, they run their code, otherwise we go to next condition. It's like a one series of condition we can create. And for this, right, for the first time you have to use if, but for the next condition you have to use else if. Else if. It means when you run this, you run your code, first they check this condition. If this match, then only this code run, all the code will skip. And if this coordination doesn't match, then only they can go to second condition. If this not match, then go to third condition. If none of the condition match, then only they will run the else. So you can think else is like default. If none of the things match, then they run the else. So for this, if you have multiple condition check, okay, and only one will run, what are the match first, then you can use else if. So in all the languages we have a different way to use the else if. In some language we write else if, in some language we write else if, sometimes we write elif. So every language we have different keyword for else if, right? But here in Python, if you want to use else if, so you don't have to use else if here, we utilize elif. So this is a way, this is a keyword we use, elif means else if. Okay, so for example, if somebody press 3, we configure the server, right? So you write all the server code, right? So first, for example, first code will be what, yum install httpd, and you have some more code you have to write. So you can just go and replace your things, right? Let me run for you. Okay, so close the code. Now if somebody press like 56, option doesn't support because we haven't write anything. So if something doesn't support, you can put in the else. So option doesn't support, but if somebody press 1, we can see so the date. If somebody press 2, we can show the calendar. So without knowing the commands, but anybody can do it. But obviously guys, you are not going to create a project for such a small commands. This I'm just taking as an initial example, right? But you know what you have to do. So as soon as you start learning new things in the Linux, you have to start replacing, right? So example, so when your final project will be built, you have to write something like, if somebody press 1, web server created. If somebody press 2, and those guys who are doing Docker training, Docker container launched. If somebody press 3, then my SS server configure, somebody press 2, my networking setup, somebody press 5, maybe my LVM or some other storage setup, right? Whatever you're going to learn in the future. So all the main topic of Linux, or the main complex things that take a lot of time to configure. For any administrator, no date command, so there is no great reason to show the date command here, right? But for for initial practice, you can do the practice in the same way. But slowly as we start moving to the some complex or advanced topics, you will start replacing this code. So instead of 1, you can write here, just set up my web server in advance with some port number, like some kind of thing we can change. And 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 in the same code, we write, just instead of date command, we write all the command that we configure the web server. It will be something like this. Okay, so that would be our plan, but initially you have to start with this code. Okay, so this is one small thing we have. I'll share this code, guys, to you, but let me add some more point here. Okay, according to my menu, I have by chance 7 choices, so at least let me write 7 different conditions. This is sixth and seventh, sixth and seventh, and you can just go and replace, right? Now, so now, guys, from now onward, your personal homework starts, and your teamwork also start. Whatever you have learned till date in Linux, okay, you start converting all those commands or the tool or the management, whatever you will learn, by these kind of scripts. Okay, so it will be a great way to practice all the stuffs you learn till date, and it's also good way to started your projects. So what happened, guys, as soon as my training completes, right, and every day whatever you are learning, you are integrating with the Python. So by the day end, your learning completed, your practice completed, your concepts completed, cleared, and project also completed, because you are every day you're practicing those Linux topics. And after practicing, you are integrating here, or because you are integrating, obviously your concept first should be clear, right? Otherwise you won't able to integrate. So this is a great way to learn the things, and believe me, guys, this is the best way. If you want to really want to learn something or some technology, right, the best way to learn, to start integrating. And that is a reason why, because I already announced you why our Linux World Summer program is so famous, right? Even though the guys who having zero knowledge in any of the technology, just in 45 days they learn all the biggest technology in expert level. Okay, the way, one of the approach we use is, whatever technology we start learning every day, we start integrating with one another, right? So automate concepts clear, you will be you will be understand how the industry use, right? You connect with industry real projects also, and your conceptual things will be clear. So again, one practice I used here, one of the practice I used here. So that's all I'm just trying to explain you here also. So start doing this thing. So let me add some more code here to take this code a little bit ahead, right? So now, right now, if you talk about this code, so let's take one example of fourth. So if somebody says 4, what I want user to be created. And if you want to create a user, okay, two things you should know. First, the command that we use to create a user. For example, if you want to create a user called pop1, so you should know the command. Although without knowing the command, how we can put in the Python code? Okay, so I understand one thing, having the Python knowledge doesn't help you to create the user. So with having the Python knowledge plus the Linux command knowledge or technology knowledge will help you to creating the projects. Okay, so we know this command. Even though if you want to test the user created or not, you can use id command. So id is the command to test users created or not. Okay, for example, pop2 user is not created, so it shows the user is not created. So if you want to test the user is created or not, we can use the id command. Okay, now, so what we want, I want as somebody pressed 4 for my user created. So for this, you just go to your code, and instead of inside the code, what you do, instead you run the date command, you can write user add command. And for example, you would like to create a user called pop3, you can write the command here. That's all. It's so simple, straightforward, right? So now what happened? What happened? uh, Before this, I will like to show you pop3 user is not here, is not there, right? So as soon I run my code and I run 4, the user is created. And if you want to confirm, you can use this command has been created. But the only challenge in this code what I have written is, guys, your code is very static. It means whenever now if you run 4, always they create a pop3 user, and because user always create once, so every time you get the error because you already exist. So what I'm talking about, some command some command is always same. For example, date command is always run, they show the current date. Okay, but some command we always want some input to be given. For example, if somebody want to create a user, we don't know which username they want to create. Okay, so we have to first ask them, okay, can you please tell me your username, which username you want to create, then accordingly we have to create the user, right? So for this for this in the code, what you have to do, right, before you create a user in option 4, you write in the same block of code of else if, right, ask them, can you please tell me, can you please tell me username, which user you want to create, can you please tell me the software name, which software you want to install, can you please tell me the file name, which file name you want to create, whatever you want to do it. Okay, and if you are asking something from the user, you have to always use input function, right? Input function is the one who will give the input. And I told you in the last class, right, if you don't want to give the new line because I want everything to come in the same line, print, after print you can use and like this. And when you take input, right, you have to input something in some variable, let's say z variable. But one more thing, guys, I would like to tell you as a good practice, right? Because in a programming language, we have to use lots of variable. So I highly suggest use a variable, give a variable as such a name that help you, that you can easily remember. You know, otherwise happen, you know, after having the hundred of pages of code, and somebody now in the future, if you try to recollect or remind why you have created Z, you forget, right? Because I don't know for what purpose we have created Z. So always create a user that makes logical, right? For example, we can give the username like username or username or create username, create user. Just give some unique name that you feel it will be unique. Okay, you're not going to use this, and in the future somebody says you have the variable create user, it means you know that is a variable that I ask from the user, and that is variable where the username is there that I am supposed to create. And so that is the reason I always suggest don't use a variable like ch or x or y, always use a variable like this. And because this variable always define why I'm doing, so the name is always bigger, and that is a reason, right, to make it easily readable, you always give a second character in the capital letter, so it will be easily readable. Because in the username we can't give the space, so in the username we doesn't support space, so that is the reason we always suggest you always, because the username is always bigger in size. Okay, so give the second character, third character, all the words instead of first, give all the word as a capital letter, so it will be easily readable. So that is known as that is known as camel case. Okay, so normally especially in Java, in this kind of language, we as a convention, we always use a variable with a camel case. Right, where first word is more small, then have all the words with caps, because variable name is always bigger. Okay, but what I recommend, that I don't like camel case much. So I always give the user variable name bigger, but instead I use second character bigger, I use underscore. That's your choice what I want to give, but this is the way I give my variable name. And if your variable name is this one like create underscore user, then this kind of case is known as snack. So I always give a snack kind of underscore something like this for the convention of my variable. So I'm highly recommend, because you have from today onwards you have to start your project. So whatever variable name you define, you give, always give a variable name something like this. But this is normal variable, the way we have x and y. Okay, so what happened, so if somebody press 4, okay, they we ask the username is stored here, and they store here, I'll give the username here, create user, create underscore user. For example, if somebody asks me run the 4, I say Jack. So Jack is stored in this variable. This variable go here, and user add will create that variable. But let's see, does it work or not? Okay, so let me run my code. Before this, let's see Jack user is there or not. Is here by chance already. Jack 1, let me check. Jack 1 also there. Jack 2. So Jack 2 user is not there in my system. So what I'm doing, without knowing the command how to create the user, if somebody use this program and therefore they ask you, can you tell me username? I say Jack 2. So they create the user. Let's confirm user created node is not created. Why? For this you should know one small thing why it's not created. Instead, you know what they created, they create the user with the same name of my variable name, create user. So they create the user with the same name. Okay, but that is not username I wanted, that is my variable name, right? But they created the user the same as my variable name. Why? So for this you also know very small thing about Python, and guys, this part is very important. What I'm explaining you right now, because this is a very common thing we used in Python a lot. So technically guys, if x is your variable, y is your variable, and if you try to print a string, this is x. Okay, so what is your intention is, what I would like to print, I would like to print this is x, and here I feel that x is a variable and I would like to replace the value x with a 5. But let's see what happened. Okay, they haven't replaced, and whatever we write as a string, they write exactly the same. So technically technically, right, in the Python, whatever we write in between the double quotes and the single quote, they write as it is. They treat everything as a string. But we know we don't want x to be treated as a string, we want x to be treated as a variable, but they haven't. So for this, what you have to do, right, you have to tell your two ways. Either you just mm, close the double quotes after just close double quote here and write plus. Okay, it doesn't work, right? Why it doesn't work? Because this is a syntax we use to add to string. For example, if I say z equals to by, for example, and if I apply this with z, it will work here. So this is what is a string, this is what is a string. So if you try to concatenate to a string, we can use plus, it will work here. But if this kind of case come up, if a variable is not is not is not a string, it is integer. So string and integer we can't concatenate, so instead we can use plus, we can use comma here. Okay, so it is printed here this and x, but I don't want to result something like this. If you guys remember, I already trained you at a tuple, it created tuple. This is the first item, second item. I want one single output come up. So both the syntax won't work. So what I suggest, and the right way to do it, right, so what we want actually, for example, again let me write the code. This is x and this is y, for example, and I would like to print this is x, where I want my x to be replaced with this variable. And for this, what you have to do, right, for this, wherever you want to replace the value x, you have to remove the x and you write one special character, and that is two curly braces. And what is use of these two curly braces? These two curly braces is a special character in the Python, and here this is mean as a variable. So whenever string see any curly braces, they will treat this part as a variable and they will replace this value with the variables. But which variable? X or Y? Okay. For this, you have to write one function here. So after the string close, you write a function called format. And format is the one who will tell that this part is replaced with X or Y, because we have multiple variables here. So I would like to replace with X. I can write here and you can see this part is been replaced by X variable. But if you want to replace Y, you can write Y here. This part is replaced with Y. So technically this syntax, right, is known as placeholder. So it is a one who is placing or holding some space for my variable input. And typically, right, this is syntax of your string in the Python. And in the string, if you have any syntax something like this thing, so whenever the string run or print or process, right, they always first go inside the string always go inside and look and for this character, and if this character is there, they will replace their value. And this concept is also known as interpolation. So guys, if you remember when I started a string long ago, I have given this word interpolation, right? So the right meaning of interpolation is this one. So technically we used this curly braces inside the string to interpolate our string. In the simple term, replacing this part with some variable. So this syntax we use a lot in Python. Okay, let me give one more example here. So example, if you have this requirement, this is x and y. I want to replace the value x and y. So again, wherever you want to replace the value, first go to that place and replace with curly braces. Go to that place, replace with curly braces. Then if you want to replace with this value, then after the string completed, use dot. There will no space, continuous. Use format, and then you to write. You want to replace this value with what? This for x and this for y. The same sequence you write x comma y. Sequence better here. So first, whatever the value you write, they replace with this guy. Whatever variable you write, their value replaced by this guy. It will like this. But if you requirement this way, x value x and y and x again, if you want to replace these three value, so again same thing. Okay, curly braces, first placeholder, second placeholder, third placeholder, because you have three value. They can write format here. So first I would like to with x, second with y, third again with x. So notice one thing. If you have three placeholder, you have to write three variables. Even though two are same, but you have to write three. But if you write only two, and if you have three placeholder, it will fail. They say you have three placeholder, but you has given on two variable, because they doesn't know you like to replace x again. So you have to write, if you have three placeholder, so you give, otherwise they say, look, it is what it is, look like a tuple. So they say tuple index out of the range. It will be the same in both the sides. But one more thing guys here, what can you do? For example, in this same example, let's take this example. So technically, you know what, because in the format, the format is a function, these are the argument, what is argument we'll discuss, right, or parameter. But technically it is like a tuple. Tuple means we have multiple, it's like array, we have discussed already tuple in list. Okay, so technically this is first argument or this is second value, and first value is always a position 0, this is 1. So technically the guy who in the 0 position, they replace with this one, the guy in the first position, they replace here. So what can you do, right? We can write 0 and 1 also here. This is the same thing. So if you write 0 and 1, or if you don't write, it's the same thing. So my point is guys here, placeholder also know the position. The first placeholder position is 0, second is 1. Okay, it means if you do this, if you want to replace, you can also replace here. So what I am doing, I'm telling my placeholder, now don't forget your own assumption, don't treat yourself as 0% and 1. Okay, now your person is 1 and you are 0. It means what are the value we have in the 1, you replace here, and whatever value 0 we have, you replace here. Even though we also can also you do this also, right? 0 and 0. Both the guys replace with x. So technically, you know what, the last example where you see the error, okay, because we haven't give the person, so they think I am a 0%, I am a 1%, I am a 2%, or there is no guy here in 2%. That is the reason they give the error index out of the range. But if you have a requirement, you want to replace this guy with 0% like x, this guy with 1% like y, this guy again with 0% like x, you can also do this way also. You can write this way also. And it's always good practice to give the number here. That makes more sense, right? That this particular placeholder or a space or the variable, you would like to replace this first one or the second one. Okay, so guys, because very common thing in any of the programming language, right? In the string normally we use lots of variable, and you maximum time you want to replace those variable in the string by some other variables, right? We use a format a lot. So I only share guys this example here, practice this one, we use a lot, even though it doesn't matter in the first go. If you don't understand, that is not important, because we keep on using this part again and again. So that's what the issue in our code also here. Okay, so what happened guys, because I write everything in the double quotes, so system is feel this is a string, and if you give any string to user it, they create a user. So this is in, they create a user with this name. But what I wanted, I would like to create a user with the username we have inputted. So what we have to do, we will tell this is not my username, this is my variable name, and value of this variable name will come from format, and the variable name that come from format is create user. So what happened, okay, when somebody press 4, we give the input like jack, the jack go to this variable, and what all any of the value of this variable replace with this guy, and finally that user will create for us. Okay, so now this code is more sensible technically. Okay, so let me run my code again. So before this, let's see, jack 5 user is there in my system? No. So if somebody run my code, say I would like to create a user, user is jack 5, there is no error. But if you see, the user was not there, now is created. So technically we have created a menu that is a dynamic menu, means means uh, when if somebody using this menu, they create their user with their own choice, they giving the input, right? It's like a dynamic, plus without knowing the command also. Okay, so I believe that you got lots of new thing today about the Python. So lots of Python if you try to understand one more thing, right? If I take this class, you know what, just keep on training you Python, 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 would be so boring, right? Even though you know what I'm doing in this class, the way in the real world work, right? If you notice, right, I explain you instead I explain you data type conversion, I was try to create an environment that you feel challenged. Okay, something is not working, then I come to this topic and explain you why we need to create conversion, then why we need to use format, and why we need to use if or else. Okay, so there's two way of learning, right? One is keep on giving a conceptual knowledge, bookish knowledge that doesn't make any sense. Second is a project based learning where we are working on a project, we start facing the issue, we need a help of conditions, and now we don't know the condition, then I explain the condition from very basics, explain the syntax of the Python of the condition, then we solve those challenge of conditions. So that's makes this will, because the requirement come up, you learn faster, and you also learn where to use the things. Instead we just keep on memorizing or unwanted bookish learning the things, right? So that doesn't help you, right? So this is a way I normally train you in this way, in this particular part. So guys, technically the project is just started, tons of things we have to do, but I also believe that you get the path what we wanted actually, and what kind of project you have to build. So start working with your team. All right, if you don't have the team, work alone. All right, and whatever things you will learn till now, do it, because you will stuck somewhere. So what happened when I come to the next topic, you learn faster because you already stuck, so because you're stuck somewhere. So that concept that I'm going to explain next time, right, you will listen those things very conceptually or logically, right? So that's all guys for today. What I'm doing right now, I'm enabling the chat box. So anybody have any query, you guys can ask. So I enable the chat box, you can do it. And guys, one more thing, the upcoming workshop that we are doing, it is very critical for two reason. First reason would be I'm going to train you in the workshop with multiple technology like AI, artificial intelligence, but it also help you, that I believe maybe lots of technological base ideas come up that will help us in the fight of this COVID. In both the form, it is a very critical workshop, right? So spread as much as you can. Right, and I've seen lots of guys are using that, lots of different ways and ideas to to share those things, right? Even though one, I think you have seen one video somebody's created yesterday, right? So it was so much fantastic. They give you actual showcase us the actual motto of IIEC. And I really appreciate, even though yesterday I love to, happy that I called to that guy and we talk, right? So I was so much impressed that particular guy, and we call that guy. I talked to that guy personally, give lots of support. I give lot of wishes, I say, not support. So that is very very important. Yes, Ritesh, you can use user del command. If you want to remove the user, you can use user del command. But we'll take this topic in upcoming class. Okay. Dhruv, Arora, they in the Saturday class, sorry, in the workshop, we will have one topic OpenCV. I'll discuss OpenCV somewhat there in the workshop, right? So you will learn a lot of thing about OpenCV in my workshop, right? No, Mithri, we don't have to declare the variable. I told you, I think in the initial classes, Python dynamically understand their data type. So you don't have to define like we do in C and Java, uh, about declaration of my data type. They automatically understand the data type. Yes, Ranjit, you can use PyCharm for IDE. So maybe in the future, if you require, I will install a PyCharm. I'll show you. But right now, I don't have a requirement, so I haven't done. So in the future, if we require any IDE, I'll show you how to install and use it. But the code will be same. In the Rahul, we don't have a switch support in the Python. Switch cases support properly, or I think we don't have even, right? Even though we don't require, because whatever you do in switch and cases, exactly things we can do in if or else if. Okay. If so, but if you have any example with you that you think that you can do those things with switch cases, but you can't do with else of if else, so just share with me. But I don't see any example, so that is the reason we don't have switch cases support in Python. Whatever we want to do, we can do if or else if, right? So yes, we can do, right? We can do lots of thing in Red Hat without programming. Somebody asked me, a pixel guy, I don't know who is there. So we can do, right? But I suggest having multiple knowledge with indication is very important. Okay, even though if you start doing some job, but in the future you will stuck to enhance your profile. So having this kind of knowledge is very important for your career. Yes, we can do, might use Tkinter, Siddhant, we might use for creating TUI. We might use Tkinter. So yes, it is also work, Mohit. Plus keyword also work in this example, but not all the example plus work. I show you some example, right? So that is a reason I suggest to use format function always. Can we create? Uh, uh, Creating a separate file would be sometimes challenging for me, the one. So I keep on putting the data in the same file. But even though for when the project started, I start creating a separate doc for project. So all the Python respect thing for the upcoming class plus the project part I will put in this doc. This doc you can use. So untitled doc you can use. AWS Salesforce, I feel if you initially Salesforce will give you a job faster maybe, but for a future angle, right, for a long career perspective, I see having start building career in AWS cloud will makes more sense, I believe, right, instead of the Salesforce, right? So if you really want to get a job and keep on encouraging and keep on enhancing your profile for longer run, right, AWS cloud, if I'm just comparing AWS with Salesforce, I'm only right, either even though we have lots of other technology also, but in the comparison, Dinesh, you AWS will be better. Fagun will update you when you have to create the project. But what you have to do in the project, all the technology that is covering in this training, you have to cover in the project. Okay, so as soon as I our training of Linux completed, till there, all the things whatever we cover, it should be part of the project. That's the point, right? So submission date is not finalized. It all depend upon our training to be completed, right? And this training of 6 week, it means 6 weeks if you can call the number of days. We have a lot of week off in between due to a lot of reason, so we have to increase our days. Okay, so as soon the training complete, after training complete within some days, I will announce that time your project should be completed. But I suggest don't wait to training to be completed then start working on it. I suggest to start the working on the project right now. How to use Control C in Bash? Simple, Control C. That's all. Just press left Control C to terminate the things, right? But for to control the signals, we have some way in Python or Bash to control the signal. This is a different thing. Maybe sometime I might talk about how to control that signals. That is a different point. What is more complex and dynamic, using the format or no, Neha, if you're talking about if you want to replace the value, format is very much useful. There's nothing about complex thing in the world. Everything is simple, all right? And somehow, if you start practicing on those things, but the format is very much flexible. You can use in any of the examples, right? Any of the area. So I suggest use format function in string to replace their value. Okay, so practice start on format. Don't use plus and comma. Example to example I show you, always use format. It is very much beneficial. Ansible, Kubernetes, and OpenShift, these are the three very great technology, or Rohit. But if you're asking me or their training right now, we might don't have the plan. Okay, but if we have, I will might announce in the tomorrow Docker class. Okay, this is one thing. Fees for intensive Industry 4.0 is 16K. I think this is comparatively. I can't just want to do a comment here. You can talk to Preeti ma'am, Ajay. But according to me, all the technology that we gonna cover in Industry 4.0, right, is augmented reality, AI, machine learning, deep learning, IoT, DevOps, Ansible, Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, AWS Cloud, Linux, Python. Actual classroom market cost is more than 2 lakh rupees. The way we have researched the market, right? But for the summer, we are just giving a student as a, I think as an infrastructure course, so to manage our infrastructure, that's all, right? So, but otherwise, I suggest to talk. Preeti ma'am, she know better. She has better answer rather than I comment here. So, how to use SSS in the TY? So, Kriti, this example we gonna discuss, right? So when I start building the TY, applications, so I'll show you. or maybe guys, tomorrow next class, this class would be on Monday obviously of this RSCSA. I will explain you how to integrate the project we are starting with the SSS, right, to do the remote management, right. So we will do in the next class, and slowly we will start integrating with the TUI. I'll show you the how to do this, right. Guys, yeah, understand one thing. Format command is not supporting the OS module. So if you see my code, I write after the after the string, right. So everything I write in the OS system, right, but I use format after string. So format function is a part of string, is not part of OS module. So if you look my example again, yeah, I've shared the code already. You can see wherever you have the string, you can use the format. Now you use a string inside the OS system, or you can use in the print, that your choice. Okay. Thank you very much, Priyanka. Different OpenShift. Both the technology is very great, Vishal. OpenShift is more about platform as a services, or maybe used a lot in CI/CD pipeline. OpenStack is more about IaaS cloud, is managing the complete infrastructure, right? It's a high level, big difference. Means a difference, but otherwise, huge market for both the technologies. So that's all, guys, for today. See you tomorrow in the Docker class, where we are going to discuss lots of things about Docker. So that's all. Otherwise, the next class would be continue from Monday. Bye. See you.